The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to episode 9 of the G5 Hive, where we aim to bring you all the honey from the week 8 in G5 college football. I am your host, Justice, and Luke is back with us this week, man. Glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back. I'm feeling good. It was a rough stretch there for about a week. I had, my petri dishes of children got sick there, and then I got sick, and it's like when the kids are sick, it's like a day, and they're still kind of sick, so you don't want to take them anywhere. And it's like I get it, and it's like I'm done for a week. It's like as you drink when you get older, and it's like you just don't bounce back like you used to. It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same. And I was hoarse, and I do another podcast for my home C2C league, and couldn't do that on Thursday. Like, it was a whole week ordeal. It was rough.
Yeah, I feel your pain, brother. Last, I guess, Thursday, my daughter started throwing up. Then my wife started Saturday morning. Then my son started Saturday night. But thankfully, I have not joined the Cootie Club yet. So
only a matter of time
yet, man. Like, it lasted for about 12 to 24 hours for them, and then they're good to go. So I managed to escape those cooties so far, and I'm hoping that looks continues. Knocking on wood. Knock on this wood. All right, get into things here. What the swarm needs to know are news and notes for this week. So I found a couple of notes earlier today I just wanted to talk about. So Louisville has decided to pay JMU $1 million for a 2025 game. The Dukes JMU was originally supposed to play Virginia Tech in 2025 for $500,000. But then Virginia Tech asked that to be bumped back a year. So when they moved that back a year, they raised the fee to $800,000. So basically, JMU's got a $1.3 million gain for a schedule change, and we talk about this all the time when it happens, but JMU could get $1.3 million and walk out of both of those games 2-0. Like that's such a real possibility, especially against Virginia Tech.
Yes, absolutely.
Louisville's looked a little bit better here recently, but sometimes these games can go south for these Power 5 opponents, and JMU's actually has looked very stout in their 2 years in the FBS. And I see no reason that will continue. So kudos to JMU.
And in my fog, I don't recall, but did you talk about last week about the whole JMU not being bowl eligible and going to a bowl?
I didn't go into a level of detail about that, but if you want to talk about that,
I just want to have a conversation. Who are you protecting?
We did mention that, yeah.
Okay, because I just don't get it.
Hey,
because you're going to transfer up, and if you do win enough games to go to a bowl, you can't. It's just preventing them from making more money, I guess. I don't know. It just seems real dumb. A lot of the stuff that NCAA does is dumb. The bowl games are dumb. The only thing for bowl games is hey, let's get let's see what next year looks like, because everybody's sitting out nowadays. You've already got, I know over the G5, we already got the Caleb Williams. Is he going to play the rest of the season? He will. He'll sit out the bowl game. But it's just what are we doing? What are we doing?
So one thing Andrew and I did talk about was this concept that I saw last week, where someone kind of, I think it was Sicko's committee, basically said, hey, Jacksonville State and JMU should play in a regular season game December 10th. December 10th is the last regular season date. and they have to play the game in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, or Alaska. Because if you play a game in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, or Alaska, you get to play an extra regular season game. I don't know like if it's true or legit, but like that would be so awesome if Jacksonville State and JMU did that and was able to do it and like just give the NCAA the big middle finger. That'd be pretty awesome.
I agree.
The the Virginia Attorney General, who is a JMU grad, sent a letter to the NCAA, and basically they said, thanks but no thanks. Well, today I read where a state senator basically said, well, you operate in the state of Virginia, you have to operate by our rules, and if you're not going to operate by our rules, we might seek legal action. Now, like I don't know if that's just an empty threat or what that means, but like I don't know. Interesting stuff, right? To politicians get involved in sports. But yeah, I mean that JMU Jacksonville State thing, that'd be pretty awesome if they could pull that off. Like they should go to Alaska. Like, can you imagine like an ice bowl in Alaska in December? That'd be pretty sweet, I think.
I can't imagine. You know what? I don't think I would want to go to Alaska for a bowl game.
Well, yeah, but it would just be so cool, right? Cool for the state of Alaska. Cool. I mean, just all around. I mean, there's bowl games in Hawaii already. I don't know if Puerto Rico. I would assume Puerto Rico has a field, but I don't know. But, I mean,
probably
Alaska
they've got baseball diamonds.
Yeah,
so. Got baseball diamonds.
Make it happen, JMU in Jacksonville State. So I saw this today. UTSA, the Roadrunners, put rat traps or mouse traps with cheese in their players' locker this week to symbolize "Don't eat the cheese." And basically, that comes from Nick Saban, I think, was the main one to talk about it. But basically, believe in your own hype, believing the media, all that kind of stuff. Well, one of the players gave one to head coach Jeff Traylor, and the trap went off and smashed one of Traylor's fingers. So it's just, I don't know, just funny, right? Like, I'm sure it wasn't funny at the time, and those hurt pretty bad. Hopefully, it didn't do anything more than bruise his fingers, but
bruise his fingers and some bear crawls for 120 yards for somebody.
Yeah, I'm sure there was something going on there for that player or for the individual. That, I mean, you got to think the head coach is in on that, right? Like putting those traps in the locker room, but maybe not. Who knows? But a little fun there at UTSA. This next news, I just saw this literally maybe 5 minutes ago. So there's reports that, so in 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays, I should say, Georgia State will host JMU. So it'll be on national TV at 3:30 Eastern. And people are saying they've been told that if Georgia State beats Georgia Southern and JMU beats ODU, then Georgia State will be 7-1. JMU will be 8-0, and that the game could be a candidate for ESPN College Game Day. And that'd be pretty sweet. They always seem to go to, at least one G5 setting in a season. So that would be pretty cool if the Sun Belt was able to get that with Georgia State and JMU.
It would be, yep.
And I know Game Day has been at JMU before, but that was back when JMU was in the FCS. So this time it'd be at Georgia State. So it'd be pretty cool for the G5.
I agree.
All right. Moving on to some injury news. Quarterback Brett Gabbert, Miami, Ohio, broke his leg. I'm not sure what bone. It's the lower leg. He's pretty much done for the – I guess he's done for his career. Because, I mean, this was his last year of eligibility. He played more than 4 games. They can't get a medical register at this point. So, if you own Brett Gabbert, it's safe to go ahead and cut him. It looks like quarterback Avion Smith, who filled in for him last year due to injury, is going to be the starter from moving forward. I would assume he came in the game this past week. He's a little bit of a different type quarterback, right? He's more of a rusher. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that impacts the passing game and Gage Larverdane there for Miami, Ohio.
I mean, I'm going to be firing up my Amos stocks here where I've got him because I like running quarterbacks, and those running quarterbacks give those linebackers something else to look for. And if you got the option and whatnot, just gives you those bigger lanes. I think so. I think he had like 50, I don't know, 56 yards and a touchdown or something this last week. But I think it'll be
I
good
just
for
hope
him.
that he doesn't mess up my Larverdane shares here going towards the playoffs. Next, quarterback Grayson McCall for Coastal Carolina took a hit to the head on an attempted slide. He has been released from the hospital. Head coach Tim Beck says that he is doubtful for this week, but he did say that he is not currently in concussion protocol. So, I'm not gonna. If you own McCall, I'd be looking elsewhere. Certainly pay attention on Saturday, but for right now, you definitely need to make plans to start someone besides McCall. And I gotta tell you, if McCall is not starting, I'm not starting anybody in that offense. I'm not starting Pinckney. I'm not starting Brown. Maybe one of the running backs, right? Maybe Braden Bennett. But I'm definitely not starting Pinckney or Brown without McCall out there. My assumption is the backup is Jarrett Guest, who came in for him when he got injured this past week, and he's nothing special to write home about. I suppose they also could play redshirt freshman Ethan Vasco, but I doubt that's the way they'll go. My guess is it's going to be run, and more run.
I would assume so, and a little foreshadowing into some waiver pickups and Braden Bennett.
That's right. Running back Ja'Cory Merritt from New Mexico. He left the field Saturday with a hurt foot, but he did return. One thing to note, though, is Andrew Henry returned as well for New Mexico, and it was looking more like a split backfield for New Mexico. So just kind of a word of caution there for Ja'Cory Merritt. Quarterback Jacob Zeno, UAB, he missed the game last week. He was still in concussion protocol. Positive news is UAB has a bye this week, and he should be good to go for their next game. Running back Rasheen Ali from Marshall did not play last week against JMU, and he is listed as questionable for this week. So just stay tuned to Twitter and look for that news as the game gets closer to kind of see what Rasheen Ali's status is, because if he plays, you got to start him. The guy's a stud. Quarterback E.J. Warner from Temple was still in concussion protocol, missed another game this past week against SMU, and they too have a bye this week. So Warner should hopefully be good to go by the time they play in 2 weeks.
That team just looks so.
Without him, they don't look good.
Bad, just so. But yeah.
Well, I will say this: I don't remember the kid's name. The not Quincy Patterson. The freshman that got in there and played the second half. He didn't look bad, but the receivers dropped so many balls. Like it was like ridiculous the amount of balls the receivers and tight ends dropped. So. Yeah, hopefully they get Warner back and they can at least be a fantasy viable offense. Running back Nate Noel from App State, he missed the game against ODU due to the ankle injury he suffered 2 weeks ago. But according to head coach Sean Clark, he is expected to practice and play this coming week. Kanye Roberts was a popular ad in his absence, and he performed admirably. But it looks like Nate Noel is going to be coming back this week. Running back Malik Jackson, Jacksonville State. They are also hopeful he will return to practice this week and return to the lineup. In his absence, it's been Anwar Lewis. My expectation is that it's going to be a shared backfield when Jackson comes back, and then plus the quarterback likes to run the ball too, whether it's Zion Webb or Logan Smothers. So. There's a little bit of a committee, but Jackson has been productive in that system when he's been able to be healthy. Running back / wide receiver on Fantrax, Tyree Shelton, Louisiana Tech. Head coach Sonny Cumbie says he is questionable to play this week, but Jarvis Thornton is available to play, and Jarvis Thornton will probably be the starter at running back if Shelton's unable to go again this week.
I don't think he's going to play this week. I don't have any insight to it. It's just, I don't know. Usually, coaches are optimistic.
Yeah.
And this, I don't know. This didn't give me that vibes. So,
wide receiver Marquise Shoulders, Tulsa, set out last week's game with a foot injury. I was now able to find his status for this week, so stay tuned if you own Mr. Shoulders. Quarterback Gavin Hardison from UTEP has missed the last 3 weeks with a shoulder injury, and head coach Dana DeMille said he does not know if Hardison will play Wednesday. My guess is he doesn't know if he's going to play today. Chances are he's not going to play. Some positive news on the injury front. Running back from Memphis, Blake Watson, returned and, looked like his old self this past week for Memphis. So I wouldn't be afraid to fire him up. I did set him this past week because I started him 2 weeks ago and he did nothing. And because he was limited. And so I figured, well, I'm not going to start him again until he kind of plays a full game. And he did so this past week. So I wouldn't be afraid to fire up those Blake Watson shares. And I think that Memphis game might be the highest over-under game for this coming week too. So
who does Memphis have this week?
Is it North Texas, I think? Yeah, North Texas. Yeah, over-under of 68.
Okay.
Quarterback McKay Hillstead returned for Utah State. And running back Harrison Whaley for Wyoming. So he missed the week before last. Last week they had a bye. Head coach Craig Bowles said that he is probable, but Harrison Whaley was quoted as saying, "I am playing. I'm not missing this game." And then when Wyoming released their depth chart today, he was listed on top of the depth chart. They're playing Boise State. It's an important game for the Mountain West standings. And I think if there's any way Whaley can play, he's going to play. Wyoming needs him to play. He wants to play. Absolutely.
Fire him up.
And a little tidbit here that Luke was asking me about earlier today, and I found some confirmation of this later today as well. So UNLV quarterback Doug Brumfield returned to action Saturday versus Colorado State. But the thing that was strange is Brumfield lined up 2 snaps at wide receiver. One of them, he went out for a pass. The other was a run play, so he run blocked. And he took 0 snaps at quarterback. Jaden Maiva, he remained the starting quarterback. So just something to kind of monitor moving forward to see if they're going to try and put Brumfield out there receiver just to try and get him on the field.
The whole story of Brumfield he's on his way somewhere and he never can catch a break, I guess.
Yeah, always getting injured. Speaking of quarterbacks, Boise State head coach Andy Avalos says that Taylon Green will start this week, but Maddox Madsen will also play. It's been that way for a couple weeks. I don't see it changing anytime soon. I think, me and Luke were talking last night. I just wish they would let Taylon Green be Taylon Green and stop trying to force him to be a pocket passer. But, doesn't appear that's what they're going to do. And ultimately, it could cost him Green. It could cost Avalos his job, all those things. Be interesting to see how it plays out the rest of the year.
Avalos is probably like, well, I don't really care who the quarterback is when I'm handing the ball off to Ashton Genty.
But just think how much more Genty could be how much more effective he could be if, they let Taylon Green be Taylon Green and run the ball as well, right?
Yep. I mean, go back to was it the Holiday Bowl? Not the Holiday Bowl. Whatever, Frisco Bowl, when they were in Texas.
Yeah.
And Taylon Green kind of had his bust out game, but Ashton Genty did just as good.
All right. So now talking about a couple of games this past week, Liberty versus Middle Tennessee. That was a shootout, which I think, we talked about last week on the show. fully expected. Caden Salter, Nicholas Vattiato, Quentin Cooley had himself a game, man. 3 touchdowns. It was a great, exciting, fun game. I believe it was a Tuesday night game. I watched the whole game. It was entertaining. I was, I enjoyed it. Salter and Cooley versus Vattiato and Elijah Metcalf and Holden Willis and Justin Olson. Yeah, good stuff.
The only thing that I'm not a fan of is Cooley is taking away some of the Salter rushes. So that is not as great as a Salter owner in some fantasy leagues, but they're putting up a lot of points. So
They are. And a bit of a shocker, Jacksonville State beat Western Kentucky last week. Zion Webb ran all over Western Kentucky. We might as well talk about it.
You need to get right game.
Now.
You need to get right game. Just do it.
Is not the same, right? I mean,
they're not what we thought. They would be this year. And people want them to be what they were last year, and they're trying. And I've given up. Pass offense just isn't the same. That team is in trouble in the coming years. And if you want to pick up and draft Western Kentucky players next year, be my guest. I will not be one of them.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we talked. You and I talked about it a little bit last night when we were, talking about the show this week, and once Austin Reed and Malachi Corley are gone, I just feel like it's going to be even worse. And their players are going to get overdrafted because, of what happened the previous 2 years. And I think next year they'll take a step back with a new quarterback. And I own a few shares of Bronson Barron in some dynasty leagues. I'm not going to do anything with those. I'm going to hold on to them, but I'm not expecting him to be Austin Reed this year. And Corley, he's such a unique talent at the G5 level. With his yards after the catch ability, that I don't know that they have someone else on that in that receiving room that has that yak ability. This new offense we've talked about before is a Mike Leach offense, very much a dink and dunk. They don't take deep shots, which was something that we saw from the Kitley and Arbuckle offense. So
the Arbuckle offense.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like now, the Arbuckle offense. But maybe in the offseason, Helton goes to I can't think of his name. The OC there, he was the receivers coach from Mississippi State. Maybe he goes to him and says, "Hey, buddy, we got to do things differently. We can hope, right? I mean, that's the hope. But yeah. I do expect that players like Bronson Barron, if he's the quarterback, maybe a Dalvin Smith, etc., will be overdrafted in leagues just because they're expecting them to be Austin Reed and Malachi Corley."
Yeah, this offseason I will be curious on if there are any offseason coaching changes, and I'll probably put something. If so, there'll be a write up on my Substack on what that means.
All right, Sam Houston State, man, they should have won last week. They're still winless. They should have beaten FIU. They had the lead. It was 4th and 18. Like at the, 15-yard line. So they were backed way up, and they gave up a 21-yard run to quarterback Keon Jenkins. And I'm like, how do you let that happen on 4th and 18?
When that happened, so you had mentioned, I was like, I'm not really watching. I was doing something with the kids, and I did see that replay. And that YouTube video, it's been forever ago, but it's like it goes like Leroy Jenkins. Like it's like that's what I envisioned was happening in the stadium as he ran for that first down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of have a special place in my heart for Sam Houston State. On my other podcast, the WIDP Grind, we've interviewed several Sam Houston State players. All great people. So I kind of have a little special spot in my heart for them. Yeah, FIU went on to score a touchdown to tie the game. The game went to overtime, and FIU won it, I believe, in double overtime. But I do think Sam Houston State will get their first FBS win or win as an FBS team this week when they play UTEP on Wednesday night. So, go Cats. Old Dominion stunned App State this week. I was at the game. I didn't get to watch too much other football on Saturday other than a little bit of the Ohio State Penn State game. But, App State, they looked okay. Sometimes they just like, I don't know. They the run game did okay with Roberts. It was very weird. Like they just kind of shot themselves in the foot sometimes. ODU's defense is decent. ODU's offense didn't look. I mean, they looked more consistent than they have. Quarterback Grant Wilson did a much better job of getting the ball out of his hands versus holding it too long and taking sacks, which has been a problem. He was much quicker with his decision making in terms of, hey, either run the ball or throw it away. And so that helped tremendously. The running game was strong for Old Dominion with Keyshawn Wicks and Kadarius Callaway both having pretty good games. It was tie game. I'm sorry. ODU was down by a point with 45 seconds left. They hand the ball off to Keyshawn Wicks, and he gets down. He gets a first down, and instead of like just falling down at the 1 yard line, App State was out of timeouts. He runs it into the end zone. I'm like, oh my god! Like there's too much time left, And there almost was. They ODU got the 2-point conversion to go up by 7. And then with 45 seconds and no timeouts, App State marched down the field, had 2 shots at the end zone, and the receiver and the cornerback knocked them out of the receiver's hands. But yeah, they had their shot. I remember when Keyshawn Wicks got that touchdown, saying to the guy next to me, I was like, "No, he should have fallen down at the 1 yard line." They had no timeouts left, could have killed the clock, and then tried to run it in or kick a field goal for the win, whatever, and not giving them the ball. But I guess as a player, it's hard to kind of think that through in the heat of the moment. You're just thinking, "Hey, we're down. Let me go ahead and get this touchdown."
Yeah, I don't mind just going to get the touchdown because you never know what's going to happen. You have a muff. Weird things happen with that oblong shaped ball. Bad snap, fumble. I mean, ask University of Miami about just trying to run the clock out and not taking knees. Things like that. Like,
yeah,
it's a weird game. Right. So just
I see both sides. I was just so concerned that App State's going to march right back down there and tie the game up, and they almost did, but it worked out, and that's the first time Old Dominion's ever beat App State.
So App State gets a new head coach. They got 3 wins. Do they make a bowl?
I don't know what the rest of their schedule looks like.
Let me read it to you.
Okay,
you got 3 wins. You've got the Southern Miss, who's given up.
That's a win. Yeah,
they've quit. Marshall.
That's possible.
It's at App State, so that helps. At Georgia State.
That's probably a loss.
At James Madison.
That's a loss.
Whoa, sorry. Got to put some respect on the name. Number 25, James Madison. And then at home against Georgia Southern.
Huh. So
you got 3. You got Southern Miss.
They got to beat Marshall. They got to beat Marshall, and then they got to hope to steal one. Because they're going to beat Southern Miss. That's a given.
So you're at 4.
they're going to have to beat Marshall to get 5, and then they're going to have to steal one of those 3, and it's possible. But Georgia State, Georgia Southern, and JMU, those are all decent teams, and so, man, I don't know. I don't know if they can get there. I mean, Old Dominion's in the same boat, and Old Dominion only needs 2 more wins, and I don't know that they're going to get 2 more wins to get bowl eligible. I see one more possible win against Coastal Carolina. They play JMU this week. I'm going to say that's a loss. Then they play Coastal Carolina at home. That's probably, depending on what happens with Grayson McCall. McCall's out. I feel like that's definitely a win. Without McCall, that's a possible win with McCall. And then they play Georgia State and Georgia Southern. So if they can beat Coastal, they're going to have to beat either Georgia State or Georgia Southern. The Georgia Southern game is away. The Georgia State game is the very last regular season home game or a week of the year. So they'd have to beat one of those 2 teams. I mean, if they by some miracle can beat JMU at JMU, then it looks really good. But I'm not. I'm just hoping they play JMU respectable. JMU kind of wiped the floor with them last year. So yeah. Sunbelt's tough, man. Sunbelt's tough for sure. Tulane held off North Texas in a high-scoring game. Mekhi Hughes looked great again. Chandler Rogers, Jay Macklin for North Texas looked like studs for North Texas. Yeah, great game there in the American. Nevada shocked the world, I feel like. They got their first win, and it was 6-0 versus San Diego State. Never in a million years would I have guessed they would have won the game, and much less would they have won the game 6-0.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say shock the world that there was a college football game that had less than 7 points. But yeah, winning was another thing. Like, it was just amazing. Nevada's quarterback, Brendan Lewis, was like under 50%. He was like 9 for 22 or something like that, and barely threw the ball at all. It like for any yards. It was an interesting game for sure.
One thing I didn't point out in the injuries, I'm pretty sure tight end Kaliki Latu got injured in that game.
He did.
So if you have him, you're starting him at tight end in the league. Just pay attention to Twitter this week and see if he's going to play this week for Nevada.
Yeah, I think let's see. He had 4 receptions on 4 targets for 81 yards, but he was in a boot and crutches.
So it's unlikely, probably an ankle sprain.
Probably.
So, probably unlikely to play this week. I'm going to let you take this next one, Luke, because you were the one talking about it last night, and that's the Utah State versus San Jose State game.
Yeah, that was just a weird game. I watched that. Had vested interest in have some Royal shares, have some Vaughn shares. That offensive line just got ate up by the defensive line of San Jose State, and it was weird because at one point I thought they were running a slow mesh. It was just real weird. But then it turned more into like the run pass options later. So I don't know what the couple plays I watched were, but it like the line just ate them up. So I thought, okay, they're going to start running some slants, some drags, just some quick passes. It's Hillstead's first game back. Let's go to the free throw line. Let's see a couple in and then, do what we normally do. I mean, Utah State's, I can't remember what it is, but they're negative like 85, 84 points in the first quarter. And then that second half, they usually take over and move it pretty quick. They weren't even looking at Royals. They weren't looking at Vaughn. It was like number 4, Davis, that they were Micah Davis. They were throwing his way. They were splitting the tight end out, and they were doing 3 bunch with Vaughn, the tight end, and Royals, and then they'd have Micah Davis on the other side, and then they wouldn't even look over there, and they just keep when they would throw it, they just throw it over there, but it's just run, run, run. And I felt like I was watching a USF Bulls game of 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And then it got to like the fourth quarter and they're down by like 21 and they're like, that like we have some really good wide receivers. Here's a tunnel screen to Vaughn, here's 12 yards. Here's a cross route to Royals. Oh, that went for 32 yards. Let's do another crosser to Royals touchdown. Oh, wow, that was really easy. And it was just like, why haven't you been doing that all game? And then at one point it was a first half, I think. I can't remember, first or second half, and they're on their own like 30-yard line, and they go for it on 4th and 3 with the pass incomplete. And like Hillstead just didn't look great, but I'm not going to put it on him. I'm going to put it on the line play. Like the line play was atrocious. Like for running the ball, like as much as they did, they had like, I don't know, 40 yards rushing maybe. Like it's not like they were effective at it. Right. At one point, like the line wasn't even. There was like one time there was like 3rd and 14, and they ran a draw, but the defensive line didn't even like they didn't even like cross the line of scrimmage. They like were just like in this like prevent thing, and then like the running back was like, "Oh crap," and then just got ate up. I don't know. It was a really weird game, and once they decided like, hey, these wide receivers are good, they could move the ball. I hope that's not something that continues because that was gross to watch.
Yeah, I have some Hillstead, Vaughn, and Royals shares as well, and so yeah, I mean, I hope they can get back into their groove, right?
Yeah.
All right, the Memphis versus UAB game. We talked about this a little bit with Jacob Zeno being out. The game didn't necessarily live up to the hype, but Blake Watson once again looked phenomenal in that game.
It was a pretty fun game to watch in general, and I'm trying to think of the quarterback's name for UAB.
Well, Landry Liddy played. I'm not sure who the other guy. There was another guy that played too.
They were chucking it and scoring some bomb touchdowns. It was a pretty fun game to watch.
And then as you mentioned a few minutes ago, South Florida, like what's going on with South Florida? Like
it's just 3 and outs, and then like Byron Brown, like he's got games where it looks like he's just killing it, and then others where it's like run, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, punt. Like I'm an Iowa fan. I live in Iowa. It looks like a more exciting version of Iowa, like in some of those. If you don't watch the whole game, and you're just watching
that bad now.
Like when you were watching snippets, like because I'm always like, going between games, like, oh, all right, I'm going to try to see this drive. And it's just like 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. It's I don't know it, but then by the end of the game, he's got 250 yards passing because he's thrown it X amount of times and running for whatever. But yeah, I just don't know what's going on there. I mean, granted, new coach, it's going to take a year, get into the system, get into the rhythm. I'm excited for next year and see what USF can do.
I can tell you, so it's Alex Golesh from Tennessee and the offensive coordinator at Old Dominion that came from Fordham. He runs the same offense. Coach Decker runs the same offense that Tennessee does in Golesh. And so, I just think from everything I've been told is it basically requires the players to unlearn what they've been taught their whole career in football, especially like the receivers. Right. And it's something it's to create less. The theory is that they don't have to think as much, right. About what they're doing. And so, what I keep hearing Old Dominion, and I'm assuming that the same would be true for South Florida with that offense, is just you're going to have to be patient. And the offensive line, you're going to have to, you need an offensive line that's good at pass blocking, obviously. So yeah, maybe they can get things turned around there. I know a lot of I believe maybe last week or week before last, I saw some of the South Florida fans were kind of like over Byron Brown, and it's clear Jerry Bohannon's not going to go in there. He didn't go in there when Brown got hurt. It was the transfer from Coastal Carolina, whose name's escaping me right now.
I have not heard about the fans, being done with Byron Brown. But if you, as a USF fan, want to complain about Byron Brown as your quarterback, like, it's not like I was about to say franchise, but it's not like the program's been like stellar the last couple of years.
Right.
Like, he's a freshman. You got a new coach. Just chill out, okay?
It would be interesting. I mean, to see if possible as we get towards the end of the year, if they consider throwing Israel Carter out there, who was a late flip and a high profile recruit for South Florida at quarterback. I mean, my guess is they wouldn't even consider it till they get down to the last 4 games, so they don't burn a year of his eligibility. But maybe by then things aren't looking so great, and they throw him out there for a game or two and see what he has.
Nope.
All right. G5 over P5 this week. There was none. The only game was Army against LSU, and Army lost to LSU.
That was a pretty sweet field, though.
Yes,
I don't know
if it was.
So, if any of the our listeners or viewers did not see that field there in Death Valley, they had camo there in the end zone, which was pretty cool. So go take a look at it.
So top 25 this week. I had a gaffe last week, a mental lapse where I missed that Air Force and Tulane were both ranked. I was only talking about James Madison being 26, but this week we got 3 teams from the G5 in the top 25 poll. Air Force is in at number 19, Tulane at number 22, and James Madison in at number 25. All well deserved. And they'll all be fighting for shouldn't say JMU unless something drastically changes. But Air Force and Tulane can battle for that G5 New Year's bowl spot.
I think it's Air Force. Air Force looks good,
and their schedule's
real good.
Their schedule's pretty weak too. So I agree. I think you got to give them the edge. Their schedule's weaker. So their record's likely to be the better record. And they look good. So now moving on to the players of the week. Luke, take it away.
All right. I went with Terrence Stewart, running back at Bowling Green. He had 19 carries for 131 yards and 3 touchdowns this week.
And for my player of the week, I went with New Mexico State quarterback Diego Pavia, 186 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns. I'm trying to read through 86 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. He's been a solid quarterback, and you got him very late in drafts this year. So props to Diego Pavia. Chris K, who I work with over at Campus Canton. He's been on Diego Pavia since last year, and he's like, he just looks like a New Mexico State Aggie. He looks like the mascot, So props to Chris K for calling out Pavia last year. All right, now we're gonna move on to the good stuff for this week, and that's our top producers for G5 season to date. And as always, we start with the quarterbacks here. There isn't really anyone. I mean, there's 2 new guys. I guess I'll point out. I'm sorry. Yeah, 2 new guys. Frank Harris and TJ Finley both joined the 2020 club. I'm not going to really regurgitate the stats here, but they kind of come in towards the bottom of the list. Frank Harris obviously missed a lot of time, and so he's come back strong here the last few weeks, rewarding his owners that were patient with him. And then of course TJ Finley and that GJ Kinney offense has been getting things going, and he comes in at the bottom of the list here. Not really anything else I guess I really want to talk about that we haven't already mentioned. I mean, JT Daniels, like, shocker, right? I mean, I don't think anyone expected JT Daniels to be this good for Rice. Davis Brin. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say Davis Brin. The last 2 weeks has kind of put up some stinkers.
Tell me about it.
But I do expect this week against Georgia State to be a high scoring affair. So I think Davis Brin will get back on track this week.
Can we talk about SMU's offense a little bit and how disappointing that has been? Preston Stone's on the list, throwing the ball around, great, but kind of expected there to be one, wide receiver, and you got Jordan Hudson coming in from TCU. And he's not even like the top guy there. I kind of thought he would be the guy. And then you got Curley, who's drafted pretty high in drafts. He's been unusable.
My guess off the top of my head is Jake Bailey's probably the leading receiver, right?
Probably.
That's just a guess. I don't know that.
They've just been spreading the ball around, and it's not what I anticipated for the SMU.
We talked about it. I think me and Andrew talked about it a little bit last week. The SMU defense is really good, and it's a much better defense than they've had any time in recent past. And so I think that's part of it as well. At least in terms of like the offense not necessarily producing as much as they have in the past, because in the past they've been in shootouts. They got to throw it around, and they're still throwing it around. Now they are spreading it around a little bit more. But I just feel like because that defense is so good, that their play calling is a little more conservative than it has been in years past.
And then I'm excited for Texas State just going forward. Not only this year, but yep. Because their offensive coordinator is from Incarnate Word.
GJ Kinney, yep, he came from Incarnate Word, yep. And it was an amazing offensive powerhouse there in the FCS. So I think again it'll take some time, and you're seeing some of it this year, but I think better days are ahead for that Texas State offense for sure. And and they're good now. So
I agree.
Move over to the running backs with Luke.
All right. Give me a second here. I'm just watching the end of this 49ers game. I'm trying to I missed something. It must have been an interception there.
Yeah, it looks like Harrison Smith maybe, or Cam. I can't tell. Is that Cam Bynum?
It's making for great radio.
Number 24,
Cam
Bynum. There you go, Cam Bynum. Cam Bynum, number 24, with the it's like a interception there to basically seal the win for the Vikings.
So running backs, a lot of the same names in the same order. Two names that are new: LaDainian Webb and Penny Boone. Penny Boone's been doing well here for Toledo lately. And LaDainian Webb, a guy who's kind of been out of it. I mean, drafted high in drafts and hadn't been really useful for most of the year. Putting up some numbers. He's having 16.7 touches per game, which ranks 18th and 95.29 yards per game, which ranks 20th. And then we have Penny Boone that's getting 15.7 total touches a game, which ranks 20th and 117 total yards per game. Toledo's got a pretty good schedule for the rest of the way. So if you need Penny Boone, he'll be a pretty good option there. But the last 5 weeks, you're getting about like 17 touches from LaDainian Webb, and he's had back-to-back 100-yard games. So, and then he had 4 touchdowns this last week, which kind of really helped his 38.8 points this last week. Penny Boone, I'm gonna look it up real quick, but if I remember right, it was a pretty quiet game this week.
Well, he shared. He seems like they shared more this week with him and Jacquez Stewart. So that's something I guess kind of monitor, see how that goes going forward.
Yeah, 17 attempts for 73 yards, no touchdowns, no targets, 7.3 points, and a 21-17 win over Miami of Ohio. But yeah, not a lot to talk about here. People who have Ashton Genty, he's off the bye. He'll, get you hopefully your 35 points a game back. That's a little maybe stretching it on 35, but it feels like he's putting up quarterback numbers in fantasy football right now.
Yep. All right, let's go on to receivers, and there's a new player or someone that jumped back into the 2020 bucket. But the interesting thing is they didn't play last week. So what that tells you is the guys that were ahead of him didn't do too well, dropped their averages and pushed him back up. That's Eric Brooks at Fresno State, who we've talked about. It's really kind of cooled off here as the season's going on. There's no surprise up top. Wester Horton, Corley, Caleb Hood, Terrell Vaughn, Colin Lacey. They've been mainstays. Ricky White wasn't the leading receiver this past week. It was DeJesus, but Ricky White did okay for UNLV. Hobart kind of leading the way for Texas State. Luke McCaffrey, he's the man with JT Daniels. Pinckney, as we said, looks like Grayson McCall is going to be out this week, so I'm gonna, if I own Pinckney anywhere or even Jared Brown, I'm gonna sit them this week, and then hopefully Eric McAllister can bounce back. He kind of had a rough week, the game before the bye, and he had up to that point he had been pretty consistent, and they did. It wasn't because they didn't throw him the ball, but a lot of times when I saw it was overthrows and he just couldn't catch the ball. So hopefully he can have a bounce back week this week, and Fresno State, they got Moss, who's kind of been the man here lately, instead of Brooks. All right. Tight ends with Luke.
Then tight ends, a lot of the same names, same as last week, with the exception of added Latu because he met the 2020 bucket, but I also have these injured. And it said that be out for some time. So no one really knows what that means in coaching terms. That could be like a couple hours for some of these coaches. So who knows? But with his 4 targets and 4 receptions last week, he's averaging 4 targets a game, 29.83 yards per game, 8.9 ADOT, and 5 points per game. So nothing like crazy. In a full point PPR, and you're getting 4 targets. Rough, but Trayton Welch is the guy that I kind of want to highlight here in Wyoming. Wyoming is throwing the ball a lot more than they have in years past. At least it seems to me. Just felt like the recipe was run, and they're airing it out a lot more this year. So I like Welch, and then you've got your David Martin Robinson without the EJ Warner has taken a step back. But then I guess the other piece of news, I don't know if you guys talked about it because I'm trying to remember when it happened, but Tanner Kozol at Ball State.
We did talk about how Hunt
is
being out
out
for the year.
So something, you would think that Kozol would be doing more, but I mean, why give it to a guy who's good? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So, Mazzotti, he didn't have any catches in the game. That was another weird thing about that Utah State game. Like, Mazzotti's been he's kind of this lumbering guy when he gets the ball, but he's a pretty good wide receiver for him. And he just they didn't look his way at all. So that was kind of weird. But he's, even despite the 0 targets and 0 receptions, he's averaging 3.7 targets per game, 35.43 yards per game, 10.8 ADOT. So he's out there running routes, and 6.8 points per game. He's only rostered in 10% of leagues. So I do like Mazzotti. They've got Hawaii this week. I'm sure we'll get to it in the running backs, but San Jose, they've been liking to run the ball, and they're doing a pretty good job of it here lately. But I do like Mazzotti if you need somebody. Anybody else on there, Justice, that you see that you want to talk about? Maybe Aaron Hentz at Western Michigan. Western Michigan run a lot of plays just in general this year. He's averaging 4.75 targets per game, 28.13 yards per game. But their dump off 6.4 ADOT. But they're not great, so they're going to be playing from behind. They do like to run the ball, but they are running a lot of plays. So there's the opportunity, and that's all you can ask for sometimes.
I do like Trayton Welch this week, right? Playing Boise State. I think he's in for a good game. It just feels like other than Holker, you're playing who's going to catch a touchdown this week. One guy that's not on this list, and I'm pretty sure he is not. I'm going to look him up real quick. I don't think he is. Nope, he's only 12% owned. That I like this week just because of the matchup is Bentley Hanshaw out of Liberty. They're playing Western Kentucky tomorrow night, and that game has shootout potential, right? And so, I might be willing to take a flyer on Hanshaw. I did notice Holden Willis. He's finally gotten over that 30%. Yeah. He's like at 47% now. So yeah.
Yeah, I had to take him off this week. Yeah.
It's good to see that people are tied in such a wasteland. It was a shame that he was under 30% for so long, but good to see that's been corrected.
I don't know if it's just you or if it's just me, Justice. But when I do the waivers and I see the rostership and I see like, oh, that was like a big jump. I'm like, so many people are watching our show. I mean, there's no way people are just picking up these G5 guys. We're the only ones out here putting out the G5, strictly G5 content. I mean, It's got to be coming from us. So
I'd like to think so. It's probably wishful thinking, but yeah. I mean, we're helping the cause for sure, right?
Yep.
So, all right. Moving on to waivers with the quarterbacks. We'll start with we got several of our 2020 guys still available. Obviously, EJ Warner's injured, so and he's on a bye this week anyway. The same as Vattiato's on a bye. Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, Joey Aguilar, JT Daniels. You need quarterbacks. These guys are, certainly players to add. And then the other guys on that list, Jordan McLeod and Chandler Rogers. The fact that they are, Rogers has been, coming on very strong here lately. McLeod does it with his feet as well as through the air. The same with Zion, Chris, and Peasley. They also run the ball as well. These are all great options for waiver additions. If you're hurting for a quarterback this week, maybe due to buys. I know some of my leagues, like I got some bye week issues this week, so I'm having to go deep on the roster or do some waivers to just to field a starting lineup this week. So any of these guys would be great additions if you're in need for a quarterback this week.
Well, I just don't understand how Braden Fowler-Nicolosi is still under 30%. He's a freshman and he's doing pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't put it into words. So the people who are watching us on the other things are not watching us here. I don't get it. But
yeah, I mean, that offense produces, right? I mean, Carson's
getting
strong.
getting 22.6 points per game in a 6-point passing touchdown league. Pretty good for a freshman.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
obviously looks way better than Clay Millen. Chandler
For sure.
Rogers is an interesting name because he's averaging, like, without looking it up, he's got to be like
He's
6-point passing touchdown, like
he's close-
30, 28 points.
126, but I remember in the first part of the season he was splitting time. So,
Oh yeah, you got that points right there. Yeah, so yeah, I like what Chandler Rogers in North Texas is doing right now.
Yep, I agree.
And then for running backs, mentioned it a little bit before, but Quentin Cooley, 2020 guy from Liberty, he's 23% rostered, but he's getting you 15.4 points per game, and he's
heating
on
up.
waivers.
He's heating up, as they say in NBA Jam. He's on fire, man.
Yep. And then Terrion Stewart, he's 18% owned, 14.1 points per game. You got Mekhi Hughes is the guy that I really want to talk about for Tulane, 28%. I hope to not talk about him next week, 14.3 points per game. You got Hughes, his last 3 games, you've got 22 attempts, 26 attempts, 20 attempts for 123 yards, for 130 yards, for 121 yards, and 4 touchdowns over that time. That gives you 26 points per game, 19 points per game, 21.4 points per game, and a freshman. I mean, what else do you want? Naquin Wright, USF. We talked about the Bulls are just like
Huge
run
this past week.
It's like run, punt. Well, Wright, he's had in the last 2 games 15 attempts and 26 attempts for 106 yards and 186 yards and 3 touchdowns over those 2 games. That's 17.6 points and 31.7 points. He's 10% rostered. He's getting you 12 points per game, but he is putting up some big points right now. And then we talked about it about every week, but Malik Sherrod, if you believed the Gilliam hype, you got lulled to sleep there. But Malik Sherrod, one to look at, and then Quali Conley. Again, I watched a lot of that Utah State, San Jose State game. They used a committee between Kyrie Robinson and Conley, but Conley does pretty well to hold up his own there. He's getting you 14 points per game, but they're going to get the ball to Robinson in the, inside the 5. I think he's had a rushing touchdown every game, and they really look to get him the ball. So something to be mindful of. We've got Dean Connors on here. Again, just haunts me every week because the one week I picked him in the waiver.
He had a bad week, but every other week, man, he's had a good week.
And it's just like it's one of those things, like we preach volume. He doesn't get the volume. He just happens to have a knack for big plays and touchdowns. So
that was a bad week, I think, for all 4 of us on that week, because scoring, at least the guys we picked, was kind of way down.
And then I wanted to talk about Braden Bennett for Coastal Carolina, 20% rostered, averaging 12.5 points per game, getting you 12.14 touches per game. His last few games, so he had 15 attempts and 15 attempts. This last week, he had 8 attempts, but when your quarterback gets hurt, I mean, granted, it's towards the end of the game, kind of your plan goes out the window a little bit. But this week he had 8 rushes for 35 yards. Not great. But before that, 15 attempts for 114 yards and 15 attempts for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns over those. So he's got 22.7 points, 20.7 points, and then the dud of the 7.1. In my article about Coastal Carolina, they like to use the running back, and over the last, I think it was, trying to remember how many the sample size on years, but however long the coach has been coaching, looking at offensive tendencies, that running back should get you about 16 to 18 points per game. So he's at 22.7, 20.7, that's right in that alley. So if you need a guy, I'm going to pick up Braden Bennett, and I'm going to expect about 14 to 17 points. I think, this week.
All right. Moving on to the wide receivers. We got Lawrence Keys, only rostered 19%. He's the man for Tulane there. Tyrone Howe, he did play this week. Last week we talked in the news about how he got into it with the Texas State student section and reportedly threw a water bottle and broke someone's nose. But whatever punishment there was, if there was one, it didn't happen this past week. Tyrone Howe is a very much I feel like a boom bust play with UL Monroe. But UL Monroe was down to their third string quarterback this week, and as a true freshman, he threw for like 300 yards. So, maybe that could be positive news for Howe moving forward. Sean Atkins of South Florida has really cooled off the last few weeks. He's probably wouldn't be too high on my list to add at this time. Jalen Moss kind of really stepped up for Fresno State, as we mentioned. He's kind of been their leading receiver the last few weeks. Rock Taylor, Memphis, has been been a stud the last couple of weeks as well. Amari Thomas, he's the man for UAB. He doesn't get a ton of targets, but he does a lot with the catches he does get. Noah Smith, Sam Houston, there's probably one guy that's been hotter than Noah Smith, and he's not on this list. And when I get done, I'm gonna play a game with Luke, see if Luke can guess who it is. But Noah Smith's been on fire the last couple of weeks. So if he's available.
So since starting, conference play after they played Houston, his last 4 games, he got 15 targets, 16 targets, 11 targets, 13 targets. You got 97 yards, 97 yards, 55 yards, 91 yards. He's getting you in full point PPR 27.16, 22.5, 26.2, 34.1 points. Ain't too bad.
Yeah, he's been on fire, man. Chase Soul, East Carolina, I talked about him last week. He had kind of caught fire the previous 2 weeks. He kind of fell back down to earth. But the East Carolina quarterback play is so bad, but the kid's a freshman. And so if you're in a dynasty league, he's definitely someone to kind of look at. And then Reggie Brown at JMU, he's kind of their leading guy. Again, kind of like Amari Thomas, he doesn't get a ton of targets, but he does do a lot with his targets. He's kind of like a 3 catch for 90 yards and a touchdown or 2 kind of guy. So if you need a receiver, you can do a lot worse than Reggie Brown. Now, this one player that's not on this list who's been pretty hot, I'd say the last 3 weeks, Luke. So his total number of targets the last 3 weeks were 42 targets. 3 weeks ago, he had 16 targets. 2 weeks ago, 7 targets. And then this past week, he had 19 targets. He went for 23.3 points, 8.3 points, and 29 points. He is a transfer. He plays in the MAC. Any guesses?
Based off that, does he play at a place that runs a lot of plays? Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yep.
I don't remember his name, but with how many targets that is, and there's in the MAC, there's that one team that runs a lot of plays. So they're at Western Michigan. And what's his name?
It's Kenny Womack. Womack. He's only 2% owned in Fantrax. If you need some wide receiver help, you should be adding this guy now. I mean, if he is available in your leagues, he's getting that amount of targets. That's just insane. So go run out, look for Noah Smith and Kenny Womack. They're available. Add them to your teams. All right, that's going to do it for our waivers and top producers. Before we close out, just a few more things here. G5 versus P5 this week. 1 game, UConn versus Boston College. I don't have much hope that UConn's going to be able to stop Thomas Castellanos and that Boston College offense.
Neither, yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully they can, but yeah, I'm not betting that they're gonna knock Boston College off this week. Couple of games to look forward to. As we mentioned earlier, we have a big Conference USA showdown tomorrow night. I believe the game's at 7:30. Liberty at Western Kentucky. Over under 61 in that game. I expect it to be a high scoring game. So, yeah, I mean, if I have Salter and Cooley, I'm starting them. As I mentioned, Bentley Hanshaw could be a flyer at tight end. Western Kentucky, Malachi Corley, and Austin Reed. I am starting Dalvin Smith at tight end in a couple leagues just because with bye weeks, I don't really have any other options. So, yeah, I'm hoping for a shootout, man.
Yeah, I'm hoping my Austin Reed share can get me maybe 30 points this week.
And the MAC, the big showdown, both of these teams are 3-1 in the conference. And that's Miami, Ohio versus Ohio. Ohio, they win. They don't look as explosive as they have. Sam Wiggles had a big game this week. Love to see that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Right?
But yeah.
He had a big game on my bench. I do think I am starting him this week just because of bye week issues, but he got to he's just so inconsistent. He's not the reliable starter he was last year. And then, Miami, Ohio is going to be breaking in a new quarterback with Avion Smith. So, it'd be interesting to see kind of like what happens with Gage Larverdane, as we had mentioned earlier in the show. The Sun Belt, another game that I think is going to be a shootout Thursday night. Georgia State at Georgia Southern. That game's probably going to go a long way to deciding who wins the Sun Belt East. I personally like Georgia State. They just feel like I know it's kind of cliche, like a team of destiny this year. They look really good on both sides of the ball. Fire up your Darren Grangers, your Marcus Carrolls, even Robert Lewis. For Georgia Southern, Davis Brin, Caleb Hood, Derwin Burgess. Yeah, could be a barn burner in the Sun Belt Thursday night.
And Darren Granger had his helmet taken away from him. They're coming in at a halftime, and then went back in the third quarter. I talked to Darren, and he said he's good to go. So don't worry if you've got him. He's ready to go.
And the American, like we mentioned earlier, I think this game is the highest over-under for the week, and that is Memphis at North Texas. So expect a lot of offense there. The over-under 68. Blake Watson, Seth Hennigan, Rock Taylor, Chandler Rogers, Jamori Macklin, all those guys, you should absolutely be starting them if you own them this week. And then finally, the Mountain West, a big showdown to see who's going to win the Mountain West. UNLV at Fresno State. Mikey Keene should be back, right?
Yeah.
They had the
bye week.
Malik Sherrod, who went off the week before, hopefully he can have a repeat performance. Jalen Moss, you got Maivia, and Ricky White there at UNLV. The UNLV running backs, that just seems like a mess to me, right? Like it's every week a different guy going off. So I'm not gonna venture a guess as to whose turn it is this week. Maybe Jaden Thomas. He hadn't had a turn in a couple weeks, so maybe it'll be his turn. But yeah, I don't know that I'm starting any UNLV running back with any sort of confidence.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
So that's going to do it for this week. Next week we'll be going full bore with that sweet nectar on the G5 from the Week 9 games, bringing you all the news for the Swarm that we can find about G5. We thank everyone for your support. Please like, subscribe, retweet, leave 5-star reviews. Obviously, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Yeah, I mean, anything you can help to spread the word, we would appreciate it as we grow our followers and continue to hopefully, continue to refine the content for you guys on a weekly basis. So, yeah.
And if there's something that you guys want, that you guys are listening, I mean, you guys are the consumers. We can talk about whatever we want, but we want you guys, to get something from it. So, we're coming to the end of the season here. What do you guys want to hear? reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know stuff that you want to hear. Hopefully in the summer, we got some things that we're trying to, put together. So hopefully we'll have some fun things, here in the off season too. So
Absolutely. So, and thanks to everyone for your support, and for the continued support as well. Spread the news to your friends.
man, it felt good to be back.
It's great to have you back, buddy.
All right. Good night.
See everyone next week.